It was late at night when the janitor, a single father named Mark, found himself standing in the grand lobby of Thompson Industries. The marble floors gleamed beneath the fluorescent lights, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and lemon cleaner. He was finishing his shift, thinking only about getting home to tuck his 8-year-old daughter into bed. But then, he heard footsteps echoing from the executive wing. Fast, sharp, and uneven. When he looked up, he saw her. Claire Thompson, the CEO of the company. Normally, she carried herself like a queen, confident, graceful, untouchable. But that night, her eyes were wide with fear. And then she said something that made Mark's broom fall from his hand. "Pretend you kiss me for 7 minutes," she whispered breathlessly, glancing over her shoulder. Mark froze. "What?" he stammered. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "Just pretend you're my boyfriend. Someone's following me." Hey everyone, welcome back to Kind Heart Stories, the place where true and powerful tales remind us that kindness still changes lives. If you love emotional stories that touch your heart and restore your faith in humanity, please take a second to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. We read every one of them. Now, let's dive into this unforgettable story. Mark wasn't sure what to do. He'd been mopping the floor near the elevators when Claire appeared out of nowhere, clearly terrified. Her blazer was half-buttoned, her lipstick smudged, and her usual calm was replaced with pure panic. Behind her, the elevator doors slid open again and out stepped a man in a tailored suit, his face red with anger. "Claire," he barked. "We're not done talking." Claire grabbed Mark's sleeve. "Please," she whispered. Something in her eyes, a silent plea for help, snapped Mark into action. He dropped his mop, stepped forward, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Hey, sweetheart," he said loudly, playing along. "You're late." I was starting to worry. Claire's relief was instant. She leaned into him, pretending as if they were close. The man's jaw clenched, but he hesitated. "Who the hell are you?" the man demanded. "I'm her boyfriend," Mark said evenly, meeting his gaze. "And if you don't mind, she's done talking to you tonight." The man's nostrils flared, but he eventually turned around, muttering something under his breath as he stormed out of the building. When the glass doors closed behind him, Claire exhaled shakily. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "You just saved me from something I didn't know how to escape." Mark smiled awkwardly, his heart still racing. "Glad to help, ma'am." "I didn't mean to pretend too hard." She actually laughed, a sound that seemed to release all the tension in the air. "You did perfectly," she said. 7 minutes of pretending, and you made me feel safe again." Later that night, as Mark gathered his things to leave, he found Claire waiting for him by the door. She looked different now, calmer, softer. "Can I walk you to your car?" she asked. He blinked. "You? Walk me?" She smiled. "It's the least I can do." They walked side by side through the empty parking lot. The night air was cool, and for a moment, the world felt still. "Who was that guy?" Mark finally asked. "My ex," she said quietly. "A powerful investor. When I ended things, he didn't take it well. Tonight, he followed me after a late meeting." Mark frowned. "That's not right. You should call the police." "I did," she said. "They're handling it now. But, thank you for stepping in. You didn't even know me, and you helped anyway." Mark shrugged. "My daughter always says, be kind first, think later. Guess she's rubbing off on me." Claire smiled at that. "Your daughter sounds wise." "She is," Mark said softly. "Her name's Emily. She's the reason I take this job. I just want to give her a better life." Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Claire started noticing Mark around the office, not just as a janitor, but as someone who always smiled, always helped others without asking for anything back. If an employee spilled coffee, Mark was there before they could even grab paper towels. When the receptionist's car battery died, he jumped it in the rain. He never asked for praise or recognition. One morning, Claire saw him sitting in the break room, reading a worn-out storybook during his break. "That for your daughter?" she asked. He nodded. "She loves when I read to her, even over video call. She stays with my sister while I work nights." Claire's heart softened. She saw in Mark something she'd lost somewhere along her climb to the top: humility, sincerity, and warmth. That same day, she made a decision. A week later, Claire called Mark into her office. He walked in nervously, holding his cap in his hands. "Is something wrong, ma'am?" he asked. She smiled. "No, Mark. Something's right. I've been watching your work, and it's time you got the recognition you deserve." Mark looked confused. "Recognition?" "I spoke with HR," she continued. "There's an opening in the maintenance department for a supervisor. Better hours. Better pay. I think you'd be perfect for it." Mark's mouth fell open. "Me? A supervisor?" Claire nodded. "You've already been one, just without the title." His eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," she said gently. He did. Months passed, and Mark thrived in his new role. His daughter, Emily, started attending a better school, and he finally had evenings free to spend with her. They'd go to the park, eat ice cream, and laugh under the fading sunlight, simple moments that meant the world to them. Claire, too, changed. That night had reminded her that strength doesn't always wear a suit or sit in a corner office. Sometimes, it wears a janitor's uniform and carries kindness in its pocket. She often visited Mark and Emily, sometimes bringing small gifts, sometimes just stories from her busy day. Emily adored her, calling her Aunt Claire. Their bond grew, built not on status, but on humanity. One rainy evening, nearly a year later, Claire was hosting a company charity event. The ballroom glittered with lights and laughter. Everyone was dressed in black tie except Mark, who nervously tugged at the tie she'd insisted he wear. When it was time for speeches, Claire stepped up to the microphone. "Tonight," she began, "we're here to celebrate success, but real success isn't about profit or power. It's about kindness." Her gaze swept the room until it landed on Mark. "I'd like to tell you about someone who reminded me of that," she continued. "A man who showed compassion without hesitation, who acted when he could have walked away. Because of his kindness, I'm here tonight, safe, stronger, and deeply grateful." The crowd turned toward Mark, who turned bright red as applause filled the room. Claire smiled warmly. "Mark, would you join me on stage?" He shook his head, embarrassed, but she waved him up anyway. When he finally stood beside her, she leaned close and whispered, "7 minutes changed everything. Thank you." Then she announced a new initiative in his honor, a scholarship fund for single parents pursuing education, named the Emily Foundation. Tears filled Mark's eyes as the audience stood and clapped. After the event, Claire found Mark outside, standing beneath the rain, staring at the city lights. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Just overwhelmed. I never thought helping someone for 7 minutes could change my whole life." Claire smiled. "That's the thing about kindness. It never stops at 7 minutes, it echoes forever." Mark looked at her then, really looked, and said, "You know, my daughter asked me once why people are kind. I didn't know what to tell her. But now I think I do." "What's that?" He smiled softly. "Because it makes the world feel like home. And maybe that's what kindness really is, not grand gestures or perfect words, but small, human moments that remind us we belong to one another." Mark went back to his job with pride, now not just as a janitor or supervisor, but as someone who'd proven that one act of compassion can rewrite an entire story. Claire continued leading her company, but her heart was different, kinder, fuller, more open. And as for Emily, she grew up knowing that her dad was a hero, not because he fought battles or wore a cape, but because he chose to care when no one else did. So remember this, sometimes life will give you 7 minutes to make a difference. Take them. You never know whose world you might change or how it might change yours. Thank you for watching Kind Heart Stories. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who could use a little reminder of what kindness can do. Because kindness doesn't just heal others, it